Hold on here. Now I'm going to send you the link. It's a good Sunday, y'all. Howdy, howdy. Oh, I'm so excited about tonight's show. So excited all you guys are here. Share this, share this, share this. Invite your friends. Bring in some people. Let's have a conversation tonight, y'all. We are live. 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 We are live. 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 We are live. Live, live, live. Hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. Hey. What is going on? I am so super excited about tonight's show. I'm not exactly sure why. I think it's because we have an awesome panel that's going to be on later. And we're going to talk about some really awesome stuff today. There's been some good stuff that's happened this week. So there's been some awful stuff that's happened this week. And I'm just ready to chit-chat. I got my wine and a coffee cup because I'm a classy bitch. I got my wine and a coffee cup. Hi, guys. Who is trying to call me right now? No. The devil is a liar. What's up, guys? What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? What is going on with you folks? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Let me get myself organized here, y'all, and we're going to get started. We do have an awesome show, as usual. We have an awesome show lined up tonight, though, and I'm really excited about the guests that are here tonight, the panelists that are here. I'm really excited about some of the things that we're going to talk about, really important issues to all of us. They're very passionate to me, but they're very important issues for all of us. So we're going to talk about those, and it's going to be a good show if I can get my stuff together. Y'all know what I'm on. So let's see. Okay, so all right, let's get started. So welcome, guys. Welcome to the third episode of the Trans Sister Radio Show. That's with me. I am Tiara Latrice Kelly. Y'all can call me TT or Sister, whatever you want to call me, but just don't call me late for dinner. That's what my mom used to say. That's old, y'all. Anyways, so this is the Trans Sister Radio Show hosted by me, and I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm so glad you guys are visiting. For every last one of the viewers that are here, so appreciative of you being here. This is basically just a forum that I set up to invite people on, people that have voices, people like you and I that have voices that need to be heard. And so I ask that you guys share. Hey.
Hi.
You're a little bit early, but that's okay. If you want to hang out, like for this segment, you can just put yourself on mute. No problem. So guys, but yeah, this is, like I was saying, this is the third episode. So I'm really excited, and I made this forum for voices like you and I, and people that need to hear, and people that need to say what they have to say. And I feel that we all need a little bit of education on a lot of things, if you guys understand what I mean, if we can be real with one another. So I think that that's why I decided to do this, because I think this was definitely necessary. So we're on the third episode, and we have some amazing episodes coming up in September. We're going to talk about those in just a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself, and I'm going to slow down, because I'm speeding up, and I said I was going to take my time on this episode, guys. So bear with me. I'm just really excited. Okay. Like I said, we do have a great show lined up for you today. And make sure that you guys do stay tuned, because I will be attempting once again to select a winner for the Click for Cash $100 free cash giveaway by one of our sponsors. No name that I have drawn so far has been online during the drawing, and that was part of the requirement, guys. So make sure that you stick around and watch the whole show, because we are giving away money to our viewers that actually watch the show. That was the point of the contest. So at the end of the show, I will be doing that again. So make sure you stick around, especially if you've already subscribed. If you haven't, so at some point throughout the duration of the show today, subscribe, okay? Hit that subscribe button. So now that that is out of the way, first things first, I want to say a wonderful, wonderful congratulations to Mr. Andrew Gillum, who, you guys know who he is, I'm sure. If you don't, you must be living under some sort of a rock if you're not exactly sure who he is. But Andrew is actually Mr. Gillum. I apologize. Who am I to call him Andrew? He's the Florida Democratic nominee for governor, governor of Florida. And he's also, we've never seen a Black nominee here in Florida, and especially one that's so progressive. And I'd love to have Mr. Gillum right here on the Transistor Radio Show in the near future. And we are working on that, believe me, to make that happen. Florida has been ran by a Republican governor for the last 20 years, I believe it is, and it's high time that we have some kind of change. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm grateful for that. And we hope that Mr. Gillum goes far. Let's go ahead and bring it home, Florida. Let's get out there and vote, Florida. Vote, 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 vote. Okay, that's all I can say to that. Vote. Now, on a little bit of a sadder note, sadly this week we did lose two of our trans sisters to senseless violence. These two murders marked the 18th and the 19th killing of a trans-identified individual. Now, that's reported, guys. That doesn't mean that that's all there's been. That is just that they were reported or they weren't misgendered or something along those lines. So that's that we know of, basically. So they mark 18th and 19th for this year alone. Now, just a little bit of statistical facts. Last year was the highest number that we've seen thus far in 2017, and that was 27. 27 trans women were murdered last year, lost their lives in some kind of act of senseless violence. And that's crazy. And the fact of the matter is that you don't hear about these stories. You don't hear about the good side of these people. All that you hear is that these people were found behind buildings or in alleyways or on top of trash piles or inside of abandoned buildings or in between two houses or in alleyways or shot up at gas stations. And this is all that you hear. And then most of the time, the media makes it even worse, and they misgender that individual. So even in death, that person is being disrespected, when in reality, they should be being respected for exactly who they are. And this is why I'm so for anything and anyone of progression in this next election, because we've got to move forward, you guys. We need to move forward, absolutely. But going back to this story, in the USA, that was in the USA in 2018, 19 killings so far this year. Now, we still have 4 more months to go. Okay, so I do want to take a moment, and we're going to highlight and we're going to remember these individuals today, because if the mass media is not going to do it, then we're going to do it. And this is a great opportunity. If you guys want to help out, this would be a wonderful opportunity for you guys to share this post right now, because so that we can spread this word and so that people can get in on this. Because I'm going to do a little bit of a tribute here that I think needs to be done. And I want to make sure that you guys have an opportunity to share this post and get some more people on here. All right, so let's take a moment. Let's do that. Share, 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 share. And let me get set up here. And we're going to read off the names of those 19 victims. We're going to remember them. And we're going to read a little bit of a message or a biography about them. And this is coming from Logo's New Now Next webpage. You can find it there. You can always look it up as well. But let's do it as a community together. So go ahead and share, guys. And like, subscribe, share, like, whatever it is it takes to get some people on here so we can get some viewers and we can get people to take a look at what's very important. Very, very important, guys. All right, so like I said, I'm going to give it a couple more seconds, guys. I want a couple more people to come in. So let's just give it a couple more seconds and see if we can get some people in here. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna go ahead and get started with our tribute. And you know, this is just a very tiny thing that we can do. What we always end up doing is waiting until November, and we do the Transgender Day of Remembrance. And that's a wonderful event, but I think that we need to start remembering these young ladies every day. If people outside of our community are not going to remember these ladies, then, and gentlemen, and these people, these individuals, then we definitely need to remember them. And I'm sure you guys have probably already seen this today, but I'm just going to go through this. Number one is going to be Krista Lee Steele. Please forgive me if I mess up the last name. Nudelisling. She's 42 years old. Krista is well known in Massachusetts transgender community for her activism and for founding the Miss Trans New England and Miss Trans America beauty pageants. Her thing was always that transgender women are beautiful, and we need a venue for trans women to be seen as beautiful. And a longtime friend, Justin Atkins. Another friend, Ben Power, organized a rally after her death to celebrate Krista's life and bring attention to the epidemic of anti-trans violence. I decide it was time to make some noise, said Power. Krista Lee was killed on January 5th. That's my birthday. The first known anti-trans homicide in 2018. Her husband has been charged with the murder. Vicky Gutierrez. Originally from Honduras, Vicky was an active member of the Trans Latina Coalition, which worked with and assisted transgender Latinx in the Los Angeles area. Friends and fellow activists called her the nicest girl in the world and an inspiration to many. Celine Walker, 36. Celine's few friends remember her as a strong and resourceful woman who eschewed clubs and pageants. She lived a low-key life and did whatever needed to be done in order for her to survive. Celine was killed on February 4th. Celine's story is all too familiar. Next, number 4, we have Tanya Harvey, 35. Tanya was also, who also went by Kita, lived in Buffalo, New York. Friends remarked that not only was she beautiful, she was strong. She was killed on the morning of February 6th. Zachariah Fry, age 28. Zachariah, who lived in Albuquerque, was remembered fondly by loved ones. You took care of me and loved me like family, wrote one friend on Facebook. I'll forever love you, and I'm sorry. Her body was found on February 19th. Felicia Mitchell, 46 years old, a hairstylist from Cleveland. Felicia was killed on February 23rd. Amia Teray Berryman, 28. Amia lived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, worked at Alliance Home Health Care. She was misgendered and dead named in the initial reports. Surprise, surprise, guys, of her death. Amia's body was found on March 26th. Sasha Walls, 29. Her body was found on the morning of April 1st. Carla Patricia Flores Pavone, 26. Carla lived in Dallas, Texas, and is remembered fondly by her friends who called for an end to anti-transgender violence. I met you very little, but it was always very nice to chat and laugh together. I will always remember you with the love and the smile you always had, wrote one friend on Facebook. Her body was found in her apartment on May 9th. Nino Forston, 36. Nino, who reportedly identified as genderqueer, lived in Dallas, Texas, was a member of their local ballroom scene. They are remembered by their partner Tiara. Nina died on May 13th. Gigi Pierce. Few outlets have provided personal details about the life of a 28-year-old Gigi Pierce, a trans woman from Boise, Idaho, who resided in Portland, Oregon. Gigi lost her life on May 21st. Antashay English, age 38. This one touched homes, guys. Antashay was a black trans woman and a nightclub performer from Jacksonville, Florida. She is remembered fondly by her friends. She was an unapologetic, bold, and loyal person. Friend Talia Smith from First Coast told First Coast News. We met years ago while at a gay pageant. We both were entertainers. She was killed in the morning of June 1st, 2018. Keisha Wells, 54 years old. Keisha was also known to family members to go by the nickname Pokey. She became the second transgender person killed in Cleveland. Her body was discovered in a parking lot of an apartment complex with gunshot wounds to the abdomen. Her aunt, Regina Spicer, told Cleveland.com she was a loving and funny and a tough cookie who stood up for herself but was also kind. James Butler, 27, is charged with complicity to aggravated murder for helping dispose of her body. And just to follow up with you guys a little bit on that, I did do a little follow-up on that. And it appears James Butler, the 27-year-old, was a homeless gentleman who was apparently asked to assist whomever it was that murdered her to remove her from their car. So this 27-year-old James Butler helped this person remove her from their car and dump her like a piece of trash in a parking lot. So they've got him, but there was no mention of a killer or anything else. So I'm going to follow up on that, and I'll keep you guys updated on that one, okay? Kathalina Christina James, number 14, 24 years old. She is remembered by her mother, who told First Coast News that Kathalina loved to dance and travel. She was fatally shot in Jacksonville in 2018. Sasha Garden, 27 years old, right here in Orlando. Sasha is a trans woman of color living here in Orlando, Florida. She worked as a sex worker and dreamed of becoming a hairstylist. She is remembered fondly for those who knew her, including Mulan Montrese Williams, an advocate for transgender women of local HIV/AIDS nonprofit. Sasha was traveling a lot. She was trying to find a new home and find herself, Mulan told the Orlando Weekly. Sasha was killed here in Orlando on July 19th. Diamond Stevens, 39 years old. Diamond is a trans woman of color that was living in Mississippi. Of course, she was misgendered in the initial reports as well of her death. It wasn't long before that a month later, she was properly identified. So it took a month for them to properly identify this young lady. She is remembered by her friends and her family who held a candlelight vigil for her after her body was found in June. Dejanay Stanton, 24 years old, number 17. Stanton, a black transgendered woman living in Chicago, was taken to the hospital where she died from her wounds. Guys, she was shot at 12 o'clock in the afternoon in an alleyway. And the pattern that I'm seeing here, and I'm sure you guys are seeing as well, is the way these girls are just being disposed of like they're absolutely nothing, like they're trash. We're going to have a whole episode on this, so please stick around because we're going to talk more deeply about this. Number 18 is Vantashea Bell. Bell, who lived in Shreveport, Louisiana, was also discovered at a by first responders on August 30th, suffering from gunshot wounds, taken to the hospital and passed away from her injuries. So once again, she was discovered and she was shot. Mrs. Bell must not die in vain, said the Louisiana trans advocates in a statement. Her murder is a reminder of the current climate and national discourse of trans issues. As we mourn the loss of Vantashea, we must double down on our efforts to ensure that all trans people across the state have access to jobs, education, housing, and safe neighborhoods. So guys, that's our tribute. Let's remember these individuals, not just today, not just on November 20th for National or Transgender Day of Remembrance, but let's remember these individuals every single day and remember that they just died trying to live like you and I, and a lot of them are not afforded the opportunities. A lot of us are not afforded the opportunities. So that's that, guys. I am running behind, but I had to do that. I had to do that. We're running a little bit behind, but that's okay. CPT time. CPT time. But I think my guests are trying to come in now. I heard, was that Elijah trying to talk to you, babe? No. That's my baby back there.
Hi, guys.
He's doing the technical stuff. If you guys have something to say on Facebook, if I can't jump and get to the messages, then he's going to be answering for you guys and responding, okay? So, babe, Elijah was trying to message you.
I know, I got that. I responded.
Awesome. So the guests are going to start coming in, but while they do, we're going to chit-chat just a little bit about some stuff. Of course, we've got to have TT's teas. And I want to get to this today, so bear with me just a moment. All right, let's see. I'm going to go through some comments. Let's see what you guys are saying. So Jeremy Hanley. Thanks, Jeremy. What a compliment. Thank you so much. Okay, girl, do some honey and some honey and some tea. Why, girl? What I need to do honey, and tea and all that for? Hey, Isabella. Oh, Isabella, thank you so much for your commitment. Thank you. I hope you get your phone charged up and come back and join us when our guests get here in just a few. What's up, babe?
How many guests are in there?
There's supposed to be 3 total. Okay. Jeremy. Honey. Jeremy, you're very talkative. I like it. I like it a lot. I like a talkative young man. Okay, let's see. I got JD here. JD's here. We're gonna give it a couple minutes, JD, and wait for the other guys to get in, okay?
Okay, good deal.
Awesome. Red wine. Red wine. You make me feel so fine. Like I said, I'm classy. I'm drinking it out of a coffee cup. Don't that make me classy or something?
Baby.
Yes.
Is JeanDavid in there?
Yes.
Is Cameron in there?
Cameron's not here yet.
Okay, is Elijah in there?
Elijah's not here yet. Hey. And guys, trust and believe, I'm working on this whole transition to get it a little bit smoother. There are a couple factors that are in play. For those of you guys who don't know, most of my guests thus far my guests have been remote. And the reason why they are remote is because, we have busy lives, and I have some very important people, or very, very busy people on the show. And so instead of interrupting their lives and bringing them here to sit next to me, we can do the same exact thing in this forum. So that's the great part about the Transistor Radio Show. But of course, like anything else, this is the third episode. So we are going to have technical issues, and we're trying to get it fixed. But we are trying to get the other panelists in here so we can continue with episode 3. It is part 2 of All Things Trans. And today we're going to be talking to some awesome trans identified gentlemen. And I'm really excited about that. So as soon as they get in here, we'll get moving. But while we're waiting, I can keep on going then. And I want to talk now. If I don't talk about anything else, I gotta take a minute. And I've got to talk about. Everybody's talking about it. You guys are talking about it. Everybody has something to say about it. While we're waiting on the gentleman to come in, we're going to talk about it. Yes. You guys already knew it was coming. We've definitely got to talk about it. So, in the latest gossip on the internet, everybody is talking about Ariana Grande at Aretha's 24-hour funeral service. Yes, I said 24 hours because that thing lasted forever. Anyway, so social media trolls are going in on poor Ariana Grande for the dress she was wearing on Friday as she sang her tribute. Now, her tribute was beautiful. I want to add that. But she was singing it at the Queen of Soul's funeral, Aretha Franklin. Very respected, very respectable woman, and I am definitely in agreement with that. But of course, people have been extremely opinionated. And let's just take a look for a moment at some of these tweets and Insta posts. Okay, let's just take a peek-see, why don't we, at what the internet is saying, what social media is saying. Some of you guys can be some very brutal people. Some of y'all can be very brutal. And some of you guys, I get it. And we're going to talk a little bit more in a minute. But look at this. I'm sorry, but Ariana Grande's dress is too short for a funeral. How did Ariana Grande get past the church ushers in that dress? Like, I get it. You're Ariana Grande, but you're at the funeral for the queen. Have some class. Every auntie in there is ready to tell her that her hair is longer than her damn dress. I can't believe Ariana Grande is walking into the house of the Lord for a funeral in this little mess. And it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And the internet has torn this girl apart about her dress. And there are some people like myself who I don't see anything wrong with this dress whatsoever. There are some people like myself who, so here's what I have to say. Here's what I have to say about it. Y'all know this is my show, so I'm going to say it. You don't have to agree with it. It's perfectly fine. We're individuals. But I personally believe that we are focused on the absolute wrong thing. Now, I've said this and I'll continue to say it again. Where is exactly the textbook of what one is supposed to wear to a funeral? Catch what I said there, okay? No, I get it. Before y'all bite my head off, okay, some people may have felt disrespected by her attire. But hear me out. And I want to say that disrespect, or that feeling of disrespect, derives from the traditions that we are accustomed to seeing at an event like a funeral. I want to repeat that again. The disrespect that people feel derives from the traditions we are accustomed to seeing at an event like a funeral. And I get it, like I said. However, one of the things I dislike most about religion in itself is its roots dug so deeply in power and control. Now, particularly over a woman's body and how she uses it and displays it. And the idea that Ariana was being disrespectful comes from a place of selfishness. What I mean by that is we are offended about her wardrobe that she paid for, and it's because our traditions are supposed to be the standard, or are they just merely tradition? Now, if they're the standard, then they're the standard. And where's that textbook? Where are the standards located? If they're just traditions, then is it okay for us to push our ideas of our traditions onto people who may not celebrate the same traditions? Ariana Grande did not grow up in the Black church. The idea that what she had on comes from a Black church mentality. So we can't, the fact of the matter is she came there and she beautifully sang, she did her tribute, and it doesn't matter what she was wearing. She came there to do what she came there to do. And I just think that people are, now, I will say that I think that everybody is focused on the wrong thing. What we need to be focused on, and what I am concerned about, is Bishop Charles H. Ellis. Now, I know some of y'all want to talk about it, and some of us don't want to talk about it. I understand. I get it. I know. But this is what I'm more concerned about. I'm disturbed by the disrespect of the spectators that were on that stage. What I'm disturbed at is, like I said, Bishop Charles Ellis, while on the pulpit, implied that Mrs. Grande should be a Taco Bell menu item. Really? Now, that was just very racist, and it was a rude comment. And I'm also extremely bothered by this man of the cloth groping this young girl and on national TV. And the fact that we as Americans today are choosing to victim blame Ariana while just breezing past. We're victim blaming Ariana while we're breezing past the rape culture environment that was presented on that stage. Now, first of all, none of this should even be in the headlines anyways, because this was about Aretha Franklin's funeral. But the fact that it is in the headlines and people are going crazy, including Black people, are going crazy, I mean, especially Black people, are going crazy about what she was wearing and completely ignoring the fact that she has the right to wear whatever she wanted to wear. She came there to do exactly what she was asked to do, and that's to give her tribute. She sang beautifully. She wasn't raised in the culture. Her life is not dictated by your traditions. So get over it. That's totally how I feel. Get over it. The look on her face says everything to me. And of course, we're all entitled to how we feel, but I do want to pose this question. What does the idea of a short dress being a sign of lack of respect come from? Where does that come from, guys? Right now, answer this in the comments. I'm going to jump in the comments. I'm going to take a look. But those of you that are here right now, I want to know what you think. Where does this idea of a short dress being a sign of a lack of respect, where does that come from?
It's a little bit daunting.
I think somebody just joined it. Hey, Cameron's here. We're just waiting on Elijah to be here. Hey, Cameron.
Hey,
Hey,
how you
hey,
doing?
hey, baby. Hey, turn your volume up a little bit or something, and go ahead and mute yourself, and then we'll get into it in just a minute, okay?
All right.
Awesome. We're just waiting on Elijah, guys. But while we're waiting on Elijah, we're just gonna keep moving with this. I just want to talk. Like I said, I want to talk to you guys for a minute, and I want to know what you guys think. Like I said, we're all entitled to feel however we want to feel. And remember, guys, here on the show, we respect everyone's opinion. So if somebody said something in the comments that you don't like, respect that. You may not agree. Let them know you don't agree. That's fine, but you don't have to disrespect them, okay? Let's see. And then also I want to ask you too. Now, I want to say this too. Really think about, like I said, where does the idea of the dress being too short showing a lack of respect? Where does that whole idea come from? Where's the root of that? Also, what if a guy wore skinny jeans? And there were quite a few that I saw in the long show. But what if a guy wore skinny jeans to the funeral? Would we then call that disrespect? You know, his dick print would just be there for the whole world to see, right? And here, apparently, the fact that the mesh showed her breast and the dress showed her legs, that was the problem, right? Now, there were people that were falling asleep at the funeral as well. Is that disrespectful? Because all I've been seeing are these funny memes about that. I haven't seen anybody outraged about someone falling asleep at the Queen of Souls funeral. I just feel like there's a hypocrisy that's happening there. What do you guys think? Is it just disrespectful that Ariana's dress was not what we think it was supposed to be? I guess that's the question. Let me see. Let me jump on here and see what you guys are saying, if anything. What are you guys saying? What are you guys saying? Anybody? All right. Well, of course, Jeremy, what you saying? Yes, the funeral was 24 hours. Oh, all my guys are on. Awesome. The fact that she was invited was the gag. You think that was a gag? I thought she was well placed there and she should have been invited there. Absolutely. Hey Deborah, hey Isabella, new subscribers. How you guys doing? Glad you guys joined us. Glad you guys subscribed. All right, so it looks like all of my guests are here. And so we're going to get into the actual show here in just a moment. But I just want to let you guys know who we have here today and just introduce them so that they can tell you guys a little bit about themselves and where they come from. And now this is going to be a good one, guys. So, as you know, this is our third episode, and we have an awesome panel of guests. Today's show is entitled All Things Trans Guide Code. So let's welcome, first of all, Cameron is my brother. He is a great friend of mine. He does a lot of activism work. He's also part of the Satine Dynasty. And Cameron is here today to share his story, and he's a triumphant individual, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself. So, Cameron, thank you so much for being here, first of all.
Thank you for inviting me.
Who you are, and introduce yourself.
Oh, hi. I'm Cameron Parker. Thank you for inviting me, Tiara. I appreciate that. As she said, that I am one of the members of the Satine House. I am an activist. Have been an activist for many, many years. I've marched to Tallahassee, and my people are some of the people that march for the rights that all of us have right now. So that's who I am.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm so excited. I'm so glad that you are here. And I cannot wait to get into the conversation with you because you and I have had many conversations, but you know. So next, guys, we have a dear friend of mine. I love this guy to death. I love him so much. He was invited to my wedding. And like, I love this guy. And we've talked about collaborating together, and I really hope that we can end up doing that. He's an amazing, amazing person. This is JD. JD, hey, thanks for coming to the show.
Hi. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a small business consultant, and I have a photography company. And I transitioned about, it's been about 4 years ago now. I transitioned at the age of 46, and very interesting ride. So I became a transgender advocate and part of the trans advisory.
Awesome, fantastic. Well, thanks for being here. I can't wait to talk to you. I look up to you, and I admire so much about you. So I can't wait to hear what you have to say today. And this next gentleman, I am very excited to have on. I have been Facebook friends with him for quite a while. We were involved at one point in time in some ministry connections. And he's an awesome guy, and I'm so glad to have him and his voice here. This is Elijah. Elijah, hey.
Howdy. Okay. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. I'm a little slow switching back and forth, but it's good to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. Like you said, we were involved in some ministry things together, and I currently serve on the leadership team at New Covenant Church of Atlanta as part of the Covenant Network as well. So part of my passion is seeing people reconciled to their faith. Being queer people, being gender nonconforming, being LGBTQIA plus. What does that look like when we come to the table of faith? And so that's part of my heart, and that's one of the things that I love to see people just awaken to the possibility of what that looks like. So I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. I'm excited, like I said, to have you here, guys. Like I said, this is going to be an awesome show. It is so rare that we get a chance to have trans-identified gentlemen that are willing to sit in a public space like this and speak and answer questions. And so I'm so glad that you guys are a part of this. And I hope that this whole thing just becomes something a lot more. And you guys are leading the way to that. So ahead of time, I want to thank you guys for being here. More than I can say. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's see. Let's jump right into it. We've got some questions, and we're gonna just jump right into those. You guys okay with that? Shake your head. Yeah, give me a awesome. Okay, so now, guys, today we're gonna talk about a variety of topics. We're gonna talk about a bunch of stuff, and I'm gonna try to, like I said, as we go along. If you have any questions, Robert back there, Robert, say hi again. Robert back there is going to be paying attention to the chat, and he will relay the questions to me, and then we'll ask the questions, okay? Awesome. But for now, let's talk a little bit, guys. Let's talk just a tad bit about gender. What is sexuality? Like, how do gender and sexuality go together, or do they not go together? In your own words, Cameron, let's start with you. What would you say? What is gender? What is sexuality?
Yeah. Gender is a very broad spectrum, I think, especially nowadays with everybody coming to terms with who they are and everything like that. Sexuality is what I feel is the intimacy and the wanting to be with someone in an intimate way. As far as gender, that to me, those are completely separate things. It's not the same. I don't think anyway. What do you think, Elijah?
I couldn't agree more. Actually, I think they can correlate, and the thing we've seen is that in heteronormative society and in the binary, we see people so accustomed to gender and sexuality being paired together that they've never had cause to question whether or not they're separate until they have a question. And so, in that question, I, I really do feel that they are separate things, that they are not correlative or causality. There's no causality at all. There's no, your body parts are A, so you automatically should fit into slot B. We know that as trans people to be no. There's all sorts of slots and all sorts of tabs, and it doesn't matter because you can work around that stuff. Uh, so I definitely do feel that they are separate and unique and beautiful in their multifacetedness. So
Fantastic. JD, what do you think? What do you have to say?
Definitely, they are separate. It's probably the most common question I get after we do some public speaking, and gender is really that core identification of how each individual defines themselves and how they identify. And so I think it's interesting when people traditionally, when we've stated gender on forums and talked about it, it's called sex, but it's actually now I think more forums and more information are now classifying someone's gender as gender per se, the word sex, because they are different. And sexuality, obviously it's who you are attracted to, but that can mean a different landscape for each person. I do think that it's interesting to, with sexuality, I don't like labels, but with sexuality, I think it really does pivot off of gender identification. So if you identify and your gender is identified as one way, that's going to determine what that label is per se of sexuality if someone does use labels. So, it is, I don't think it's too difficult for people to understand, but it definitely gets convoluted after a while. And it's just going to take some education to understand that the two are very, very definitely separate entities, but they do kind of correlate to one another as far as sexual orientation.
Absolutely. Great answers there, guys. And I would have to say that I agree with you guys. We know, as Elijah said, that as transgender people, we know that there's a broad spectrum. And I said on last week's episode that I have learned that I've been living in such a box for such a long time. And it's just been the last couple of years that I've started to discover so much more about sexuality and gender, because even as a transgender woman for 18 years, I had limited the spectrum, So it's awesome to get a chance to meet people and to expound that and to see that there's so much more. Because for me all as well, and Elijah, I'm sure you can probably relate as well, it helps me spiritually to understand myself more too when I get that understanding, So all right, so next question, guys, we're gonna go on to let's talk a little bit about dating. I didn't get a chance to talk to the girls last week about dating. So let's talk a little bit about dating as a trans guy. So first of all, I want to say this, and I'm just a realist, guys. So nowadays, I see everywhere, everybody wants to date a trans guy. It's all the rage now is everybody wants to date a trans guy. And I know a couple of you guys, I know Cameron's married, and I don't know about the rest of you guys, but what's that like? What is dating like for you guys? Elijah, let's start with you.
Oh, thanks. Dating's actually an interesting place for me right now, only because I'm just now kind of dipping my toe back into the pool after going through a divorce. So so I kind of just recently got over the wave of anxiety and nausea at the thought of dating, and have started to kind of put myself out there. It is interesting that people have this perception of trans men being some kind of object of affection to attain, and it's really awkward for me, and to me it makes me feel objectified in a way that feels vulnerable and almost in a parallel way, but not quite as vicious as objectification against women. But it does feel sort of parallel a little bit. And it makes me skittish because, especially being a spiritual man and wanting things to be a little deeper than just insert tab A into slot B. For me, that's not what I'm looking for. And so it makes me cautious, it makes me reticent, and it makes me feel like I need to be very aware of how authentic someone's motives are when we step into the arena of, do you like me for me, or do you like me because I'm an exotic pet in your dating pool? You know?
Right. Absolutely. And of course, I'm sure you can understand that I can relate to everything you just said, especially about feeling like an object, because when I was in the dating pool, I hated it. Like, I hated it because you go into these chat rooms and into these places, into these spaces, and you're just, like you said, you're looking for something genuine. And I'm a spiritual person too. So, like, I mean, trust me, I've had my times. Y'all know that song, Once Upon a Time I Was a Hoe. I was a hoe, y'all. Like, once upon a time, I was definitely a hoe. But, like, now, I'm settled down, I'm married. And when I was getting into that stage of where I wanted to get serious, it was always like, what's in between your legs? How big are your breasts? What? Hello? So I absolutely understand what you're saying. JD, what do you have to say? What do you think?
Dating has been absolutely interesting. I actually, on transitioning, I had to actually take a break from dating because it just the whole shift in society to what my gender role was in society. I always dated women, and then after transitioning, but before transitioning, I dated women per se as a lesbian. Now, dating is my, on the outside core, as male, the dynamics change completely. I've definitely had to bring a lot more game to the table now, different expectations for males in society versus females. And it's interesting. I get the interview now, I get the 5-question interview, because now I'm being filtered automatically and, talked to. And I don't blame women for doing that, but they definitely want to run down a list and make sure I'm I kind of meet some of those marks. But also too, dating where, that objectification, before I transition of males towards a female, it's interesting now that, I think dating opens a bigger world after you transition because I was not living my authentic self. I lived in boxes, as you said before, just a very, very small boxed in area of what I thought life was. And so having to get closer to my truly authentic self, I meet people with that, and I'm looking for that in the same person. And no judgment on other people, but we definitely have to meet on the same platform where we are living our authentic lives. And that's actually been a little tougher for me to find. So.
Yeah, absolutely understand that. And can I ask you, do you think that it's just a lack of understanding, or why do you think it may be a little bit harder? Because I've heard the story, I've heard exactly what you just said so many times from my my trans brothers. Why do you think that is?
Sorry. Just real quickly, when I transitioned, and I don't want to speak for the other gentlemen on the panel here, but when I transitioned, I had to at times stand my ground just about against everything in society, from the church to coworkers, family, to everything. Just governmental restrictions and so forth. And so I became a much stronger person after I transitioned. So beforehand, maybe not so. My boundaries weren't as defined, and now they are. So before, where I would date and my boundaries might have been a little bit compromised, now they're not. It's not that I'm picky or anything like that, but I definitely am looking for a specific person with a specific core, and I don't have to date unless I do find that. And that's the thing. My relationships have gotten more authentic, and whether they're friends, family, or in dating situations, they're more genuine and sincere now that I transition because my boundaries are more solidified.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's such a wonderful answer, and it's so good. It's true. Cameron, so you've been out of the dating scene for a while.
A whole 6 years.
Yeah, but listen, tell us what the married life is like. Now, I know your wife is my sister, dear friend. She'll be over here in just a little bit after the show's over with. But tell the audience, what is it like being married to a lesbian woman? What's that like?
Well, let's see. It is really no different than any other relationship. We don't use labels. You know that we just don't. We are just a couple, just like every other couple. Of course, sometimes labels come into play, and people, it's an education. It's an educational moment for people. Ask well, how do y'all even get along? Because she's a lesbian and you're trans, and how do y'all even have sex and all of that? I give that, I give that disclaimer off top. If you're gonna ask questions, be prepared, because I'm gonna give you the answer raw, just like it is. But for me, being married to a lesbian truly isn't like any other relationship that I've been in. I mean, she's the one that took me for me as I am. That's my ride or die right there. She ride with me no matter what. We've been through a lot in 6 years, and I have not had that with anybody else, lesbian or not lesbian. I've dated, when I was in the dating game, I dated straight women, I've dated bi women, trans women. I pretty much ran the gamut. So it wasn't, there wasn't you had those that knew, knew who I was, but didn't know how to deal with it. And you had those that knew who I was before I even knew who I was. That kind of paved the way for me. So that was pretty, the dating game was pretty cool for me. I didn't have any issues, and, I had like maybe two crazy girls that came along, and one of them was so crazy that they made me think that I was crazy and I had to go to therapy. Yeah, so it wasn't, it's nice to be out of the dating game and married and, and settled and, happy. That's that's like the best thing in the world, is to find someone who matches your crazy.
Absolutely. So I want to, guys, really quick, I just want to get to some of the comments here. Thank you guys so much for that. So Flex Jones, the entertainer. Hey Flex, thanks so much for being on the being here today and viewing. He says dating is not as simple as many may believe. I'm not sure if Flex is a gentleman that identifies as transgendered. If you are, Flex, let us know. But that's a good point. Dating isn't as simple as we believe. I think that's with everyone. Dating isn't as simple as the TV makes it look like, oh, you're going to meet her in Central Park, or you're going to meet him in Central Park, or you're going to meet them in Central Park, and you guys are going to crash each other on the bikes, and then your books are going to drop, and then one person's going to pick up the other one, and then you guys are going to get married and have 5 kids, and that's the end, right? Like, but we all know that that's not the way it works in real life, right? So you're absolutely right. And Danny Iman said, true to that. Crimson Dungeon says, you are all stunning. I love you all. Hugs and good vibes to all of you. Danny had a question. Let's see. Danny says, do any of you ever feel objectified by trans women? Which is a great question to lead into our next question. But let's answer that first. She says, do any of you feel objectified ever by trans women? Elijah, let me ask you, have you ever had an experience where you felt objectified by a trans woman?
I wouldn't necessarily categorize it as objectified. I did find because I love trans women, and I've had some dating, a little bit of dating with trans women. I did have one encounter where one of the trans women I dated was only interested in trans men in a very exotic pet kind of way, and that was unique. But it wasn't. I still didn't feel objectified. I think to me that carries a different connotation that I would say, for the most part, at least in the trans community I'm involved in, I feel like we're kind of sensitive to that, and so people are a little more aware of that. So I wouldn't necessarily categorize it as objectified. I would say it more like, I don't think this person was really aware of just how particular they were being in their tastes until somebody was like, "Oh, boo boo, really? You really are chasing every trans man in Atlanta."
Gotcha. Now, Cameron, like, I know that you've had experience with trans women, that you've dated trans women, and so would you say that you've ever felt identified by one?
Oh wow.
You should have known, by the way, that I was just gonna put it out there. You, my brother. I know.
There have been, I will say, there have been a couple that made me feel like super uncomfortable, and the moment I feel super uncomfortable, I start kicking people to the curb. So I don't deal with that very well. As far as any other people outside of the community, like gay men, they do that same thing. It's the exact same thing. It's weird, and it's like, and once they find out that you don't have, then it's like, oh, excuse me, let me go off to the other side of the room now. So it's it is really, really odd and awkward that people make you feel how people make you feel when it comes to the way they hit on you or the way they come at you. It's weird. Especially if they don't know. When they don't know, they come at you and they talk to you and everything's all hunky dory, and the next thing you know, then it's like, ooh, I didn't know you had. Hey. Then they want to. It's weird. I don't like it. It makes me feel weird, and I kind of get standoffish. You see me do this, just walk away like real slow. But that's the only thing that I found in dating, when I was dating, that if you came on too strong, I really don't have any place for you. I am an old school dude. I take everything real slow. So that is in the way I date. When I was dating.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, I'm sorry. I think you. Oh.
What happened?
Oh, I think we missed the part. I'm sorry. I think I talked over you, and I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
JD, I was going to ask you. Same question. Like, as far as being objectified, Danny Iman wants to know. Have you ever felt objectified by a trans woman?
Absolutely. But I've been objectified by, heteronormative males, gay males, gay women. Uh, Absolutely loved, I've met some great trans women. So I think, answer that question, it needs to literally, what needs to be attached to that is, objectification is about power and control. It doesn't matter who it's from, or it's also just about being uneducated. So, but objectification by many different people. So I wouldn't actually, take, specifically point out trans women with that. So, but I think that the more education that we get out there, panels like this that educate people, we become less of an oddity, less of a mystique, and we become normalized like every other person. And
Absolutely.
hopefully that objectification, it does happen, but it happens across the spectrum, not just by one group of people.
Absolutely. And that is exactly why we're here, guys. These kind of questions and these kind of Dana Iman, we appreciate your question so much. Thanks for asking that. The second part of her question was, the fetish size. Did you guys feel that way? And of course, we've already discussed, a couple of you guys have discussed it. Yeah, it goes right along. And as a trans woman, of course, I absolutely can relate to that. Because, as I said, it is so rare not to find or not to be treated that way. And I'm even going to go a step further. I'm going to go a step further, guys. And I'm also going to say, even as a married woman to a heterosexual identified man, there is still a sense of objectification there. Because the reality for me and for him is that I'm a trans woman. And he married a trans woman. He did not marry a cisgendered woman, and he knew what he was getting into. So a lot of times, I have to be honest in the fact that in some sense, some form, it was about the fetish. It was about the fact that I was trans. And there's this huge topic happening right now on social media all over the place. And if my sister Michaela is watching, I know she would want to say something to this, but there's a huge topic right now about that whole thing. But I don't want to get into that right now, but about that whole thing, I don't want to offend anyone. But let's go back to the questions. Let's stay on topic, guys. I like to chase rabbits, guys, so forgive me. So Felix Jones, I'm assuming that Felix is a trans guy. He says within the past years, trans women are now interacting with trans men in trans spaces and learning to appreciate trans men as the men they are. And then he also said not as a sexuality. Jeremy Hanley says me and lesbians always bump heads. Okay. That was random, but thanks for that info, Jeremy. James Speed says the few cis women I could ever saw myself with, have children with, were bi. Okay, James. Oh, James, that's Michaela's husband. I want to bring you on one day. I want to hear what you have to say. So, Justina, Cameron, your wife made a comment here. She says, I'm a cool lesbian. Laugh out loud. I don't usually bump heads with too many people. So, and she's a cool lesbian. Let's see. Michaela is on here and she says, does she look at you as a man? So, Cameron, I think this question is for you. Michaela Soul says, does Justina look at you as a man?
Yes, from day one. There was no question. There is no question about it. She didn't question it. That is, even though this is the person that I sat down with from long distance, mind you. She was in Missouri when we met. And we sat down and we talked, and I let her know what was up with me and everything like that. And she just went with it. no questions asked. We did research on my top surgery. We did research on bottom surgery. It wasn't anything like anything else any other relationship that I've been in. It's not like that. It wasn't. We just clicked. Then for a lesbian, that's pretty doggone cool because most lesbians don't want to have anything to do with trans guys. And lately, here it seems like every lesbian has a trans guy now. So I'm kind of, even I wonder, are y'all looking at these guys like they're guys, or are you looking at them because you want to feel normal about yourself? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know. For anybody else, I don't have an answer for everybody else. I just have an answer from my relationship. And for my wife, she does not. She only sees me as a man.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So Felix Jones, just to clarify, and I do apologize, Felix is a male of trans experience. So Felix, thank you for your input in the comments. Thank you for being here and being able to offer some input here. And let's chit chat afterwards and see if we can maybe get you on a later show and get your voice heard here as well. Cameron Jessina did verify in the comments. She said, yes, I do look at him as a man 100% of the time, as you were saying. Now,
Tiara, I'll piggyback off of that. Sometimes it's interesting when I'm talking to women, when they're talking about, living as female or so forth and the trials and tribulations. I said, I'll remember that, when I was living that way, and they're just like, stop, JD. I just don't even want to think about you as a woman. They're just like, no, don't go there. I don't even want to think about that. So I think, it's if you're living your identity, you're living your core gender, people see it pretty quickly.
Absolutely. And JD, Felix or Flex, I'm sorry. I've been saying Felix, haven't I? It's Flex. Flex said that your comment earlier was right on point. He said it was so true. And then Danny thanks you guys for answering her question about trans women and objectification. Let's see. Yeah, Flex, I'm so sorry. He just corrected me, guys. It was like, it's Flex, not Felix. And I'm so sorry about that, Flex. Forgive me. Okay, so we've talked about that. Now, I want to go a little bit more on the trans attracted. And I want to talk a little bit more about, obviously, it seems like all three of you guys are very open to the idea of dating a trans woman. So if you were to date a trans woman, assuming that there are people viewing the show right now who don't have an understanding about sexuality, they don't have an understanding about gender, they don't have an understanding about what our lives, your life, if you would take a moment, Flex, I get your question and I'll get to it in just a minute. But if you would take a moment, how would you explain to someone who may say what we think stereotypically that someone would say if you were dating a trans woman? I don't know how to answer that. I mean, how to even ask that question, because honestly, first of all, I hate it. And having the understanding I have, but trying to get an understanding for other people, it's hard for me to ask that. But you guys, I hope you guys understand. We discussed this a little bit before the show. So I hope you guys understand what I'm asking. Elijah, let's start with you.
Well,
it's a rough question, right?
It's a rough question, but I have a lot of conversations with people just because of what I do in helping people sort of come to a reconciliation point with queer identity and sexuality with faith. So I do end up in a lot of conversations with people about sexuality and gender and all of these issues, and what does it mean? And what does it mean when you have a homo, queer, Baptist-costal, Hispanic, or trans man married to a lesbian? Because I that was my experience too. And what does that look like? And now you date men, but you date women, but you date trans women. And I start with the premise that all gender is drag. Period. All gender is drag. The societal norms, the gender norms that we have are just that. They were invented and brought down culturally and societally throughout the ages. And we've attached body parts to it because in our understanding, we've developed this idea that body parts require you to act a certain way or be a certain way. And I start to challenge those things just step by step, little by little. And it depends on the person, because some people are just not open to that paradigm. Like if I'm having this conversation with a cisgender frat boy from South Georgia, it's going to look a lot different than my gay male coworker from Atlanta. So, it's gauging those moments of how deep down the rabbit hole can you go? And are you open to understanding that just because this doesn't line up for you doesn't mean that it's not a valid experience for the person that you're talking to?
Awesome answer. I'm not sure what happened, Elijah. I'm having a hard time hearing you. Can you guys hear him?
Oh, I just stopped talking.
Oh, I see. Okay, I think there's a delay then. No problem.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No worries. So, awesome, JD. I want to get to you in just a second, but let's see. Going back to the comments here, it looks like Flex said Flex wanted to ask you guys as well in relation. Well, not necessarily in relation to this question, but also he wants to know, do you guys date outside of your race? I'm going to come back to you, Elijah, on that question. But JD, I'm going to combine those two questions. So I'm going to ask you first about oh my gosh, guys, I just went completely blank for a moment. But we're going to answer Flex's question first, and then we're also going to answer the other question as well. JD, what do you have to say?
Yeah, to answer the first question, I have dated trans women. I have no issue with that because they're women and I love women. And I while I was dating them, I saw them as women, who they are. And so I don't have an issue with that, nor do I make any bones about it either. I'm not going to play with that. I didn't see them as trans women while I dated them. They were just women. And the second question, no, I don't have any issue dating outside of my race whatsoever. Again, when you go through, living as a white female in the South, beforehand, whatever privileges came with that, I tell everyone every day, they said, well, if you ask God, or whatever supreme power, could you just be born a cisgender male? Absolutely not. I had privilege that would have never exposed me to the abject discrimination that I've experienced as a transgender person. So if I had to do it all over again, or if I had to make a decision, I'd be born exactly the way that I am. And I would want to go through that transition because it whatever said make me woke, and it opened my eyes up to the fact that, the heart really, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, the heart in that person's heart is what matters. And I would never have gone down to the depths and the layers of what that actually means if I had not faced the discrimination that I've faced as a transgender person. So why would I want to put that on someone else or limit my experiences with other people by being closed-minded like that?
Absolutely. Good answer. Good answer. Cameron, I already know the answer to the race issue here. I mean, the race question here. Outside of your race, your white kind of outside.
Yes. No, I don't have a problem with dating outside the race at all. I never have. That, to me, I feel like that would have limited well, not limited. If I would miss my blessing if I just stayed in one gene pool. If I just stayed in one race, I would have missed my blessing. So no, I have no problems with dating outside my race at all. As far, what was the other question?
The other question was as far as dating a trans woman, and how would you explain that to someone who doesn't quite understand um, what that is?
I really have to just break it down for them. I mean, she's a woman, period. You know, as far as what you're seeing in front of you, that's a woman, and they don't need to know any other, anything else about her besides what they see. You
Absolutely.
know, and that's how I feel about that.
Absolutely. And Elijah, I want to swing back around to you really quick with the question about dating outside of your race.
Yes, actually, I'm great with dating outside of my race. I would actually um, go so far as to say I have more problem dating inside of my race. Um, and that is something I'm actively working on. I am Hispanic, I'm Puerto Rican, and a lot of it is issues with internalized, um, just some internalized issues with the way I've been treated by family and my experiences with that. And I realized that was kind of porting over into my dating pool, where it was like, I think I've dated one Hispanic person. I was like, okay, no, this is too much like my family, and I'm not ready to deal with that. So, but that kind of helped pinpoint some places in my own heart where I had to deal with internalized homophobia, internalized trans issues, transphobias, and internalized race issues towards my own heritage and my own upbringing that were uncomfortable to deal with. And I do want to circle back around to the trans women question, because I don't think I think I went on a rabbit trail with that a little bit. Um, you know, one of the things I'm big on is I tell people, let people own their story. You got to let people own their story, and you got to let people own who they're telling you that they are. And it's not for me to question when somebody, it's not for me to question. I was recently on a panel at Kennesaw State talking about faith and trans issues. And there was a beautiful young lady named Jessica who hasn't had a drop of hormones, 5 o'clock shadow, gorgeous long blonde hair, and constantly misgendered because of her appearance. And it was just a beautiful moment with me to sit there and say, this is exactly it. You have to allow her to own her story. Absolutely. And honor her story.
Absolutely.
So that's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so many Jessicas in this world.
Yes.
And that's so true. I had shared a story not too long ago on Facebook. I was up in Miami doing some testing, and the office manager had told me about a young lady that she was best friends with named Gabrielle, who had started living in her truth at a younger age. I mean, at an older age. And she, in doing so, she had lost so much of her life. Right. People didn't understand her. It took her a while to get established on hormones and those type of things. So people didn't get it. And so she lost her job. She lost her family. She lost so many things. And she had gotten to a place where she had lost her license, and her license was suspended, and she lost her insurance because she didn't have a job, and things just piled up one thing after the next. And unfortunately, Gabrielle took her life at a traffic stop. She got pulled over by an officer, and instead of going to jail and having to face the rest of that, she ended up taking her own life. And that's so much of the story. And if we can have more panels like this and more events and more lives like this where people are being educated, then we can prevent those type of things, because people will be more prone to hire someone of trans experience or to try to get to understand someone of trans experience. And so that's exactly why I'm having these type of shows. That's exactly why we're having these conversations, because I think that's so important. Absolutely. Now, Flex had another question, but Flex, I'm going to get to your next question. Micaiah, I am not going to ask that question. It's a little bit personal, and I don't want to infringe on the anyone's personal. So we're not going to ask that question. I do apologize for that. Micaiah did have a question. She said she knows it's personal, but she always wondered about trans men and their dysphoria. She had asked a question previously that I'm not going to ask you guys. We're going to skip over it. But if you guys choose to go back into the comments afterwards, see the question and answer it, then you're more than welcome to do that. Flex did answer her question though in a very good way. Okay, so let's get back to these questions. So the next question I'm going to ask you guys now, since transitioning, what has been the reception? You know, like, how have you been treated by others now that you're seen as other than female? Now, it may relate to an elaboration of societal perceptions of Black, Hispanic, Caucasian males, no males, gay, straight males. But how would you guys say that? What is the reception, and how have you guys been treated? JD, I want to start with you on this one.
Thank you. The only thing I can explain it is as a whirlwind. Living outwardly as female and not in my core identity. When I transition, the perceivable male privileges they speak about, for anyone to say that it's not alive and well, it's definitely, but just the overwhelming eye-opening experience of that male privilege that exists out there. It was overwhelming for me. And to see the access that I have, especially in the business world, and to, first of all, fight against that. Hey, that's not fair against women, but then to transition into embracing it and, using it for your best benefit to help everyone, that's definitely been overwhelming for me. And also too, I didn't realize living before transitioning how much I depended on males. The male was supposed to fix the car. The male was supposed to do this or that, and then overnight it's like, JD, can you take a look at my car? JD, can you get that guy out of the lobby over there of that business? And so, I'm asked to do a lot more. Society, the weakness that, a lot of people say that males are not attached to their feelings, and this and that. Society limits males to show outwardly weakness or emotions. And I've seen that across the scale, men, women, children. Society kind of dictates they want men to be strong. They want that. A lot of people will say, well, men aren't connected. We need to get men connected to their emotions. And the same people that are saying that also, if they do see weakness, you see that uncomfortable look on their face. So we need to actually work on society as a whole and not just pinpoint one group that's doing that to men. But society as a whole allows for very little weakness to be displayed by men.
Absolutely. Good answer. Very good answer. Elijah, let's go to you. Same question. Since transitioning, what's been the reception and how have you been treated?
I would say I've probably been treated well. I was shocked at the level of masculine privilege that exists, likewise, especially in the workforce. How much easier access to things and access to input and insight. People just, want to know what you think. And I was like, oh, well, really? Oh, okay. At the same time, I was likewise, I transitioned a little later. I started in my early 30s. And so the switch from the way I was raised to this whole nother set of rules, like JD said about, before it was the doors get held open for you. Now you're expected to hold open the door or you get a nasty look. Or, before, there's a lost toddler in the store. Let me help you find your mom. Now it's, what the heck are you doing with my child?
Right.
So the idea that a man could be nurturing or kind or compassionate, it's a problem. And the toxicity of, the idea of that we have of masculinity and what it should be, because I didn't throw my femininity out the door when I transitioned. I'm still me, and I don't feel any need to be some kind of alpha male figure. I'm not going to be. I'm me. So it's a little difficult to walk that line and know how to respond. So I feel fortunate. I think, I did lose friends, but they weren't that great anyway. If you can't, bless you. If you can't hang with me through this and you don't see the value in me as a person, looking so different and being so different, then I'm okay with that.
Absolutely. It's not your problem.
It's not my problem. Exactly.
Yep.
And so now that I agree, now that I'm living my most authentic life, then yes, it is much easier to see where those boundaries are important. I think it was eye-opening to me to see the disparity, having lived on the other side of it, and just assuming, people say, oh, this, you experience it on one end as a female, and you go, oh wow, this feels some type of way. And then as a male, when you see it from the other end, you just kind of gasp and go, oh, holy crap, I'm the one that's got to say something now.
Right.
Because these guys have no idea how ridiculous they're being. And I'm the one that's standing in the circle going, dude, do you realize like how misogynistic that joke was?
Right. Right.
It's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And like this, I'm so glad we are having this conversation, because so many things that you guys are saying here are things that I've never, again, like I said, it's that box. I've never thought of these things. Like, for me, I've always, and I have to be honest with you guys, like, I've always felt like trans men have had it so much easier than trans women, and like, there's not really I don't know if you guys knew some of the ignorant things that I thought at one point in time. And so I'm so personally glad that we're having this conversation. Cameron, I have the same question for you.
Let's see. For me, I think the reality has set in, like, as a black man, it shit just not real. Like, I just realized that I'm an endangered species now. I crossed over and everything was going along good all the way up until a couple of years ago when we started having all these different cops shooting and all this. So now I'm looking at people in a different light. I look at things when I'm more cautious about the way I drive now. I'm more cautious about where I'm walking and who I'm walking with. And, just life in general is a little bit different now. I wouldn't change this for the world, actually. I transitioned and I thought everything would be hunky-dory, and for the most part it has been all the way up till now. Now we have people that feel like they can say whatever they want, however they want, and not reap the repercussions of what they say and what they do. in today's climate with all of us, especially trans people as well. We're not to say that we're sitting targets. No, we're not that. We are very loud. We have a lot of us who are extremely loud and will stand, and that's what we need in our community. We need those people to stand up. The guys that are on this panel right now, I applaud you guys. You guys are like, big brothers, big little brothers. You guys are just like, you guys are just like me. We've been around for a minute, and we've seen some stuff. And now we're looking at it from a guy's perspective, and it's really real out here. It's not as rose colored and rainbows and all that like we all want it to be. It's not like that. We have to really start looking out for each other. A lot more than we have been. Yes, how many murders have we had this year? Especially trans women. We gotta look out for our sisters. We have to look out for our sisters. One way or the other, we have to make that noise. Somebody at the news station gets somebody gender wrong, we need to jump on that news station immediately. That's, yes, it might be too late for us to get that person, but we can get the person that took that person's life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's how I feel. Things on this side of it, of being male, for me, I couldn't tell you what it's like as far as a job because I haven't had a job since 2014. Don't know. I'm out scrounging. I'm out looking right now, but yeah, it's way different. It's definitely way different. People do kind of look at you differently now.
I understand. And that actually goes right into the next question from one of our viewers. Michaela says, so her next question then would be, how do you men feel about being clocked? And then there's a continuation to that. She says that she knows that you guys look very masculine, but she wants to know, how do you guys feel about trans individuals being clocked? And I'll go a little bit further. If you guys are comfortable in speaking about it, have you ever been clocked? Elijah, let's start with you again.
So yes, I've been clocked, and it felt uncomfortable. It felt disrespectful for me personally. And I would say that, I never set out to live stealth, and I don't. Just for me personally, I don't take anything away from anybody that lives stealth because we all have our reasons, we all have our times. But for me personally, living stealth is not a thing that I feel is important, but I do feel it's important for me to own my story. And when it's right for me to tell you, I'll tell you. My previous job before where I am at now, I was in an environment that was heavily male-driven industry, heavily it was outside of the city, and I worked with a lot of certain type of men, and it just did not feel like a safe environment. I still have coworkers that I'm pretty sure they found out through Facebook. Now at my new job, I'm in an inclusive environment. It's a wonderful place to work. I mean, they march in the pride parades. They encourage us. It's highly inclusive. I have a trans flag at my cubicle. But I still, being clocked at this job still felt disrespectful. And it still felt like, I need to own my story. And if you want to clock me and tell me, that's one thing. But if you want to clock me and tell my coworkers that can confirm it for you, and you two can have a little gossipy little conversation about it, that doesn't feel cute to me.
Right.
And, so that's how I feel about it. I know some other people are different. It felt disrespectful to me.
Absolutely. JD, how about you? Have you ever been clocked? And if so, how did that make you feel? What was that like for you?
Yes. Actually, I have, but now, I mean, I literally transitioned at the age of 46 into a balding, overweight, middle-aged man. So, I mean,
Right.
When people look at me like that, they, so it doesn't bother me at all. I actually maintain my female gender marker and my female name on all my documentations. So it's interesting. Now people don't do that. People don't look at me when I do. I'm not going to go out there and say, "Hey, everybody, look, I'm trans" or anything like that. But if I have to take care of any type of banking or any type of thing where I have to show identification, the conversation does come up. And we're so far removed from that. So if they see me, they see a male visually, and then if they see a female name, I've gotten all kinds of comments at banks like, "What, was your mother drunk when she named you?" and all kind of
Wow.
Right. So we had a conversation at the bank with the bank manager, and so, but I actually do that. I'm not motivated to really change that documentation right now because all my physical picture on my documentation matches what my present condition is, and that's all that's required for it to be legal. And there's many people in transition that do want to change that, and they just can't. So I have decided to maintain that space for right now, just because it creates conversations for me. It's exhausting for me to constantly go out and say, "Hey, I'm trans. I just want to let you know I'm visible." People don't want to hear that. They just want to take care of business. They want to go about their day. But those offer enough conversations for me. So that's just my way of just making that available for that conversation to exist. So I don't live stealth, and I don't do that. But when people transition, they have absolutely every right to transition and go live their lives. They don't, if they choose not to have those conversations, they just need to go and have the right just to go live their lives without that. So if people want to, like me or other people, one of like Elijah and all that, and Cameron, we've had those discussions too. If people choose to do that, that's fine. But people who live stealth should not be judged for it.
Absolutely.
Not everyone's an activist or an advocate.
Absolutely. And that's completely understandable. Cameron, I want to ask you, Flex had a question. He says, and I'm going to go to all the rest of you guys as well, but he says, do any of you feel that you're overshadowed as trans men by the trans women community?
At one point, I felt that way, because we had a group, a support group here, and there was only me and maybe one or two other trans guys, and we were completely outnumbered and completely out talked and everything like that. And so on some levels, it's like that, and it just is. But now we got some guys out here that's really doing some stuff, and they really taking the reins and are out there, doing their thing and making us visible, which is cool. I'm good with that. As far as myself, like I said, I have been out. Man, I don't even have never lived in a closet my entire life. When I came out. That was that. I've never been. Once in a while I might get clocked, but I overlook it and I don't make it a big deal. I'm just a basic guy doing basic guy things. I do things behind the scenes that people don't know about. Every once in a while, my sissy right here pulls me to the front and has me speak. But I like doing panels like this. This is good.
Absolutely.
Congrats, sis. That's a good deal.
Thank you so much, and I'm hoping for so many greater things with this. The more you guys speak and the more we have these conversations, the more I'm like, yes, 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 yes. This is what it's about. This is the whole reason why I'm doing this. So thank you. JD, I'm going to ask you the same question. Lex said, do you feel like you've ever been overshadowed as a trans man by the trans woman community?
I think the media has a lot to do with that, because the media in general sexualizes females more, and that's no secret that just that when Elijah talked about that toxic masculinity and that sexualization of females, they're going to naturally do that for trans women too, I believe. So, but also too, we have to look at statistically the transitioning age and so forth with trans men. Just from my take, they seem to transition younger now. Transgender women traditionally have transitioned a bit later in life. That's changing now with more education. But transgender women have had they've been exposed to more opportunities, even though they weren't male, but they were living in that male that life before they transitioned, and they were actually exposed to more opportunities. And so, after transition, trans men actually have to catch up and find their voice. They were living and treated as women, and so they have to find their voice. And if they're younger, they might not have already established more financial security, more education. Where that now, literally, that's meeting in the middle now, as trans women feel more comfortable transitioning younger now, and then trans men, are transitioning earlier as well. But I do think that overshadow part has to do with the sexualization of women in general in the media, and the different age groups that transgender women and transgender men transition. But that's rapidly changing. If y'all agree or not with that.
For sure. I absolutely do. Elijah, same question for you.
Do I feel overshadowed by the trans women community? Possibly. Is it a bad thing? No. Do I feel overshadowed by it in a bad way? No. Only because I agree that as we get more panels like this and as we get more resources out there and more community, and I will say the internet has been vital in getting us together. This wouldn't have been possible 20 years ago, what we're doing tonight. And so technology has been a boom for that. But do I feel some type of way about trans women getting more attention or getting more press or coverage or anything like that? No, because the statistics at which your lives are in danger just by being who you are that much higher. So if that level of attention sheds more light on keeping you alive, then smash the freaking patriarchy. And I'm going to say something, and some people may feel some type of way about it, but I am a man with body parts of a female. So I have no business feeling any type of way about elevating women whose lives are in danger.
Absolutely.
And so if the conversation continues on making sure that trans women's lives are preserved, and then absolutely take front and center, because you're getting threatened at a level that is disproportionate to anything that I could experience, and it's not fair. And so I'm great with that. I'm great with put the focus on the people that are in need of it. So.
Excellent point, Elijah. Excellent.
Go ahead, JD. I was going to ask you the same question.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, just agreeing. That's an excellent point, but excellent.
Okay, awesome. Now, Flex did have another question. Flex Jones, the entertainer, he wants to know how old each of you are and how long have you been on your journey. Cameron, how old are you and how long have you been on your journey?
I'm about to be 50 in November, and I've been on my journey about 10 years. It'll be 10 years in November.
Okay, awesome. And JD, same question. How old are you and how long have you been on your journey?
Just turned 50, and I've been on my journey since birth, and trying
That's a
to
good.
come to a realization of what I, the incongruency that I felt transitioning. It was only about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, did I realize through education that this misalignment that I felt was me being trans. So obviously the internet, the Chaz Bono video had a lot to do with that, a lot of education. So I transitioned and actually took the physical transition 4 years ago.
Fantastic. Great, and that is a great answer. And it's absolutely the same answer that I always give when I'm asked that question. It's like for me, there was never a crossing over. There was never this big epiphany that happened. I didn't wake up one day and was like, oh, I'm gonna go put on some pink clothes and buy pink razors and and spend more money because it's pink. Like I have always been Tiara, and I really just started living as Tiara. I started dressing as Tiara. And I tell people this often. It was when I had to live my life dressing as someone I'm not, then that's when I felt like I was living the lie. So I completely understand what you're saying, JD. Elijah, same question for you.
I'm 38 years old, and medically, I've been on this journey for coming up on about 7 years, but the process of walking towards living the truth of my life has been more of a 10 to 12-year journey. So, and again, sometimes for many reasons, medically, financially, whatever, hormones are just not a thing. And so honoring people with their stories and I do want to take a second and say, JD, thank you so much for using your story to disrupt the status quo and disrupt people's paradigms. That's such an important part of storytelling, and it can be such a courageous act. And I just want to commend you for that because that's brave and it's powerful. And I just want to thank you for being that person.
Thank you, Elijah. Tiara, we're looking at 3 trans men who now live in society as a Hispanic male, a male of color, and then a white male. The privileges and discrimination between those 3 different, forms is absolutely, it's insane. We had that discussion at Tiara's wedding afterwards, about, what that comes, what it is to be a person of color now in society. And then, when people look at me, they're looking at me now as the man, the oppressor, and sometimes I get stuff and I'm like, whoa, wait, that's, you have no idea what my story is. And they're like, you're the oppressor, you're the enemy, JD. So, so Elijah, you're right with all 3, you and Cameron, you telling the story where these stories could not be any more different.
Absolutely. And I think this was perfect. We also had JT who was going to be on earlier, and I want to give a shout out to JT. He was supposed to be here and he messaged me earlier and he he just was not ready, or today was not a day for him to be here. And I understand that. And I told him, I want you to be mentally here. And he also had some other things going on. So we're going to bring him on at another time. But I'm so grateful that you guys are here. And we're going to wrap up here in just a few minutes with the panelists. But I do have a few more questions that people are asking. And that's what we're here for, is to, educate and to get people. So if you guys are okay with it, I'm going to sound like a church preacher and say, I ain't going to hold you much longer. But if y'all will just hang around with me just a little bit longer, there's a word in the water. Did I do that right, Elijah? Was that right?
Yes, girl. Yes. I'm going to shop my bun down here in a second.
So, Joe says, have you experienced violence along your transition, or have you felt threatened? Cameron, let's go to you with that one.
Not at all. I mean, I've been very, very blessed in my journey thus far. I haven't experienced any type of violence. I haven't experienced anything that even remote that sounds remotely violent in that way towards not towards me anyway. I can't even I can't even say anything like that. It's never happened. I do feel some type of way that Tiara and I have had friends who have had violence towards them. You know, um, and it does make you feel some type of way. But as for myself, nope, no, nothing like that. I've been very, very blessed.
That's awesome, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Is that you've been very fortunate because that's not really the story. And one day we're going to get more into this as well. But there's a such thing as past privilege, and that whole thing as well. And that has a lot to do with being able to answer this question. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. But thanks for that. Now, oh, I don't know what happened to JD. Oh, there he is. JD, same question for you. Joe wants to know, have you experienced violence along your transition, or have you ever felt threatened?
Absolutely. I have been threatened. We've done a lot of community forums and so forth. And I think a lot of times.
I'm sorry, JD, let me interrupt you really quick. Cameron, can you just move yourself really quick for me?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Go ahead, JD. I'm sorry.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the first year in transitioning is the most vulnerable for many, many people. Society wants to put you in a binary as soon as they see you. They want to say, are you male or are you female? And I kind of get this, this ghost look when I was trained. They would look at me with their ghost. They couldn't put me in the box, and they actually, for the first time in society, now I was a threat in society. I would have people walk and circle me around in stores. And I had two guys follow me outside of a sandwich shop one time and followed me. You want to be a man? You think you want to be a man? And I talked my way out of it. They went to their car and, they were Hispanic, and, they must have also felt discrimination. And, my voice inside said, don't go talk to them. You just got out of a fight. And I sat there and said, this is not a good idea. But I got out of my car after a few minutes and went over to them. And they said, oh, you're ready? And I said, no, we just need to have experiencing two different types of discrimination. And, we actually had a conversation, but that worked well. Someone threatened. Yeah, I've had people threaten to shoot me. Yeah.
Wow.
And a lot of times I'll say I'm transgender, and they'll say, why do you want to be a woman? I can't believe that, blah, blah, blah. You guys have to say, and I have to say, no, I transitioned from female to male. And then they're like, oh, okay. I don't have a problem with that. And I'm like, oh, right. And so now I just say I'm transgender and let them go down that road. And then, because a lot of times, oh, it's okay, JD, he's now the man's club, and but it wasn't okay when they thought I was going to be a female JD. That's not right. That's I and so those conversations, sense of humor about it, but at the end of the day, I'm not responsible for the actions of other people.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna live my life, and I'm not gonna go to some places and say, hey, y'all, look, I'm changed, rainbow flags for everyone. So, but again, yeah, that's about it.
Absolutely. And I love what you said there, because that's one of my golden rules. One of the greatest freedoms that I experienced as a transgender woman, and going back to spirituality, Elijah, one of the greatest things that I received as a trans woman was the reality that someone else's problem or issue with me is not my problem, and it's not my issue.
Not on any level.
And you know, like that has been the biggest freeing thing for me. So JD, thank you so much for that. And Elijah, same question for you. Did I already ask you this one? Did we already get to
No. But I've been very fortunate. I have not experienced violence related to my transition, but I have experienced violence related to being Hispanic and queer in the South. So, and I have been arrested for driving while brown, and I try to be very cognizant of the spaces I'm in, especially traveling in the South. If I'm doing any kind of traveling, I usually have people with me that can help run interference in restrooms and things like that because I'm very cognizant of not winding up a statistic, even though I'm less likely to. I'm still aware of what that looks like.
Absolutely. And I hate to even say this, but the reality is, like, to be honest with you, until today, Elijah, I thought you were Mexican. You very much give me a Mexican vibe. And I hope that's not, you know, whatever.
That's not whatever. And no, I agree. And I just had this conversation recently with someone because they were asking me what is that? Why do people take so much offense to being called Mexican? And I said, well, let's remove the immediacy of it's a different country from
Right.
that.
Right.
That is a whole nother topic in and of itself, but the essence boils down to the same internalized racism in the Latino and the Latinx and Hispanic community. And so, and that's just a recent journey for me in trying to untangle that mess in and of itself. So I don't take offense to it other than to say, no, that's not my country.
Right. Right. Exactly.
I'm from Puerto Rico and I'm a Southern boy now. So, you know.
There you go. There you go. Now, so Flex did say, congrats, guys. I think Flex is saying that he's 56 and life began for him really over again at 40 years old for himself. So you guys all seem to be right around that same age and are able to relate to one another in that sense of things. So I have two more questions that I really want to get to, and then I'm going to let you guys go because I don't want to keep you guys forever, and it's already 9 o'clock. But this is what happens when you're having really great conversations with really great people. And like I said, I'm so appreciative of you guys being here. Listen, I'm going to tell my audience because you guys probably don't know. But when I send out these invites to come on the show, I tell these people, oh, it's going to be like 20 minutes. I just need like 20 minutes of your time. And, well, here we are almost 2 hours later. So thank you guys so much for that. So the next question is going to be, what has been the most profound thing that you have learned about yourself, society, etc., since transitioning? But before you answer that, I want to say I've been kind of missing James Speed. James Speed has been commenting a little bit, so I want to acknowledge James. Hey, James, we see you. James says that I think it was when Cameron was speaking, and he said that he hasn't experienced discrimination, or he hasn't really had that experience. And James says it's because you haven't had the experience of violence because you carry yourself how he feels. And I believe that James is a cisgendered male, hetero-identified male, trans-attracted. If I'm correct, if I'm incorrect, please correct me, Michaela or James. So I just wanted to point that out, Cameron. And then also James had said earlier a couple other things as well. Let's see if we can go back up here and see what he said. So I'm going to make sure that I'm including everybody. So James said he was talking about, you know, it's happening in this country and it's time for us to sober up. James seems to be very awake. James Speed, I want to let you know that I want to have you on the show one day. I'm going to actually have a show dedicated to trans-attracted men. And you are definitely someone that I want to have on. So stay tuned for that because we're definitely going to have a chit-chat. I think you have a lot to bring to the table. So I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Yeah, so James said he is a cisgender heterosexual male. So that's awesome. Like I said, James, I do want to have you on the show one of these days. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being an ally. Thank you for loving on my sister, Michaela. I know she's crazy about you, and I know you're crazy about her. And I love it. I love you guys' love. So Michaela said, yes, my baby is very smart. Okay, so now going back to the question, what has been the most profound thing that you have learned about yourself, society, or whatever since transitioning? JD, we'll start with you again.
The most profound thing that I learned about myself that upon transitioning and giving myself permission and demanding permission to transition and not listening to permissions, the most profound thing was realizing that I really am male. That comes the good and the bad. And to sit and be okay with being male, a Southern mother who, attention to detail, attention to manners, and all of that. And there's just, our relationship became 10,000 times better when I transitioned, because, we were both trying to put myself and my mother into that female working. And so with real, I had to realize that there are some things about me that are just male that even maybe, aren't the best in society. Again, I mentioned earlier about not understanding discrimination. I'll never know what it is like to walk into your shoes, Elijah or Cameron, but closer to understanding, that there is no Santa Claus to those discriminations. My whole world opened up about discrimination and how many layers exist in so many communities in society. And it made me much more compassionate that there's discrimination against everyone in society. Look at each one individually and not collective. Well, that's okay. You're discriminated this, but I'm discriminated. Each discrimination is individual, and we need to look at the individual groups and why, and give them the due respect that they need, as if we're moving forward, collective nation towards more everyone together. But we have to look in so many different groups, but it doesn't minimize the importance of each group and how they're discriminated against. And that's the biggest lesson I've learned through transitioning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Elijah, same question for you. What has been the most profound thing that you've learned about yourself, society, or whatever since transitioning?
I learned that there's a reason we have parents during puberty. No, in all seriousness, I think the most profound thing I learned, and my transition kind of fell in an interesting time in my life where there was a lot of change swirling around me. And the biggest thing that I learned, and I don't know that it's necessarily correlated to my transition, but it affected my transition so much, is that happiness is an inside job. That no shot, no hair, no appearance is going to change what's going on the inside if I haven't done anything to really cultivate my own soul. And so the transition helped, because it's so easy when you have dysphoria to assign so much of your unhappiness to the dysphoria when there's really other things going on. And the biggest thing I learned about society, and we already knew it, but it just highlighted that much more to me, is how obsessed we are with genitals. Like, unreasonably so. Like, let it go. It's not that important. Let people be who they are, and let's smash the patriarchy and remove these ridiculous standards of toxic masculinity and femininity that are not serving anybody but keeping people in bondage way longer than they should. So.
Absolutely. What an amazing answer. That absolutely 100%. And Cameron, you as well, same question. What has been the most profound thing you've learned about yourself or about society or just in general about
As for, for myself, I've discovered that I'm a lot stronger than I give myself credit for. Um, you know, I look at the people that I've gained, and I look at the people that I've lost, and you know, just to blaze your own path, you have to be a different type of person. To blaze your own path, you have to be a different type of person. You know, um, as far as society, oh wow, society. I'm so tired of society putting people in a box. God, I don't belong in a box. I wasn't born in a box. None of us were born in a box, but yet here we are as society putting each other in boxes. It's not cool. You know, a person has to live how they're supposed to live for themselves. You know, it's not my place to tell JD, hey, you not a real trans man if you don't have this done. Excuse me. JD was supposed to be looking at me like, what is wrong with you? You know, that's not my place. My place is just to love you and accept as you are.
absolutely.
You know, so
Absolutely.
um, I really truly feel that society needs more compassion and more understanding of love. The truest definition of love is what I think society needs to learn at this point, at this juncture of this game that
I,
we're all in.
I couldn't agree with you more. Love is definitely what we need. And I know it's so cliche and there's songs about it and there's, we sing about it and we talk about it and we think about it in church and we preach about it, but it's absolutely true. Love and Flex said, and empathy is also needed as well. James Stewart
Yep.
said, the world is the stage and everyone has a part to play. And that's
Hey,
so absolutely true. Jeremy Hanley said straight people should do something like this on Channel 9 News. I agree 100%, but I don't think it should be straight people. I think it should be Tiara Latrice. So you guys keep looking out because I think that this is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So, and then let's see. And then let's see. James said that he would be honored to be on the show. So I'm so grateful to hear that, James. We will definitely get you on. I'm gonna have you on, I think, with my husband and a couple of my other friends, if I can get a couple of them to come on and speak on behalf of trans attracted men. Outside of the whole, fantasy and fetishizing and all of that, but men who are genuinely attracted to dating or married to transgendered women. So we'll definitely get you on, James. Okay, last question for you guys, and then I'm gonna let you guys go for the night. And again, I want to say thank you guys so much for being here. But the question that I had before we go, if there were a transgendered young man right now that were watching the show, or he doesn't have to be a young man. If there were a man in his transition right now watching this show, and he wanted to know what you guys had to say about transitioning, about testosterone. As a matter of fact, I think I missed a question earlier about testosterone, so I'll throw it in with this one as well, testosterone. Y'all, this wine is doing me well. She creeped up on me a little bit quicker than I thought she would. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. But it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. But there was another question about testosterone that I thought I saw earlier. And if I can't get to it, we will get to it at some point in time, guys. But to my panel, my main question would be to you guys, what would you guys say about transitioning and testosterone, doing it, doing the transition. Elijah, what would you say to a young or a newly transitioning transgendered individual male?
I would say don't do this alone. Don't think that you don't need people in your life that can hold you steady. Like I said earlier, there is a reason we have parents when we go through puberty, because you will need people in your life saying, that are able to tell you or are able to help you navigate. Is this real? Is this in my head? Or is this the hormones affecting me and causing me to blow something out of proportion? So you need community, and you're going to experience things that you're just not prepared for. Because I'm sorry, but signing 4 pages worth of side effects, you're not going to read all of them. And
Right.
frankly, it's the one that you don't think is going to happen to you that is probably going to happen to you. So you need people. You need a support system. You need a community. And don't be afraid to share what's really happening, because it could be an issue that is much less of an issue once you are able to talk it out.
That's very good advice. That's extremely good advice. And Cameron, same question for you.
I would say, and I have said to younger people coming into this, be sure. You know, the journey is long. It's not fast. If it is fast, something's wrong. Um, Take time with yourself before you take your first shot. Make sure that you know this is the path that you want to take. Make sure that you get in to see a good therapist, and I don't mean a therapist that's just going to write you a letter the first day. Get in with a therapist that's going to listen to you and understand and give you put you on the right path. And just be yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and don't all that extra. I'm a man. No, don't do that. Just be you. If you into planting flowers, plant your flowers. If you into baking, bake. There's plenty of cisgender guys out here who are doing the stereotypical female things. Just be you. You don't have to be anything more than yourself. That's
Absolutely.
what
That's amazing advice, bro. And I love what you said there. If you plant flowers, if you bake, whatever it is you do you. Because the reality is we have and it's kind of like what I was saying about the Ariana Grande thing. I don't know if you guys are watching the show before you guys came on, but I was saying about the Ariana Grande dress thing and how society has programmed people to believe and think a certain way about certain things. And the reality of it is, why can't a man? My husband back there, y'all see him?
barely. Uh-oh.
Tiara.
Did we lose her?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Well, she's off there. Go ahead, Nate.
We're still showing live.
That's okay. Go ahead and answer mine. What can we all three say about testosterone? To me, is what makes and character. Being a man is about character, integrity, the people. Just it's not going to change that. Get support, like you said, Elijah. Support is the biggest. Don't isolate other people. They're not aren't going to be I put people because I thought they were going to discriminate against me, and they would have been helpful. But it's transitioning is the first thing that I really felt like I could never do alone. Definitely the support.
I was just telling you, community. It's the fan.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So
that's a good point, and I think the other thing I would have loved to have circled around on, and I think we all kind of touched on it in a way, but just being very clear about you are trans enough. That whatever your journey looks like now, you don't have to live up to any image or any expectation, that as you are today, you are trans enough, and being comfortable in the journey today. I really appreciated, Cameron, you saying, take your time, live your journey now, take your time, and don't be in a rush. And so I'm thankful for you guys sharing your wisdom and your voices, because having that support system together is how we're able to help and identify what we can do to help our brothers come up.
Oh my gosh, guys, listen. So I don't know what just happened there, but I just disappeared, and I was talking to you guys, and I went through this whole spiel and everything, and I wasn't there.
We just went on without you, Tiara.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. JD, were you able to answer the question?
Yeah, just real piggybacking for you to hear, transitioning really was the thing that I needed. I needed support. I could not do it alone. I needed the support of family. I needed the support of, obviously medical personnel and so forth. Some people don't have, but we've got Facebook, we've got Facebook threads, we've got other support groups online, and not to make assumptions on who's going to support you and who's not. I found that the people that I kind of thought were going to be there were not, and then the other people that I would have never have imagined in a million years that would have been there for me were there for me in incredible ways. And that was my shortcoming on making those assumptions. That's up for how people want to act and how they want to support you. I think they should be allowed to give that chance, but also when you transition to it, because we are 1% to 3% of the population, there is going to be a time where during transition you have to stand up for yourself and say, this is who I am. This is going to be, you can't ask permission people to help define who you are. You've got to, it takes a while, but you've got to define who you are, and people will follow along with that. Eventually they will. And you just have to, it's like salmon, with, they have to swim up streams against all odds. What happens when you can understand, be careful, but you have to, you teach people how to, people how to teach, what is it? Help me out. You teach people, or you train people how to treat you. And since it's such a kind of mysterious thing to people, you've got to stand in who you are and believe when you transition. But definitely the support is a major factor.
Absolutely, 100%. What I was saying when I disappeared there is I was just reading some of the comments. James Speed says that this was a great show, very informative, guys, and that was what we were here for. And it seems to be the consensus of the people that are commenting. So we're really grateful for that. Flex also wanted to input on what he said on that last question that I asked, and he says that he would recommend that you get a mentor, reach out to those who are older in transition, and stay in therapy for yourself, not just for your meds and your surgery, but I'm assuming he means for your mental health and all of those things as well. Jeremy says that the problem is that some heterosexual people can be so insensitive. And I added to that I don't necessarily feel like it's just heterosexual people. I feel like there are some people in the LGBT and the Q communities that can be very insensitive to one another as well. So that's something that we need to start doing, is trying to bridge that gap and stop being so insensitive to one another. Flex says to take care of your mental health, physical and spiritual self, and be yourself, and to only let go of the negative energy of your character, but stay yourself and stay on your journey, which is a great message there as well. Hey Sheila, we see you watching. Thank you so much for popping in. So guys, there were a couple more questions, but I didn't want to. I don't want to spend too much more time. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for being here today. This has been a really incredible show, and I'm gonna have to do a part 2 of a part 2 for this show because you guys are awesome. I'm so glad that you guys were here and open and so able to express how you felt, express yourselves, and let your voices be heard today on this episode of Trans Sister Radio Show. Do you guys have anything else that you want to say before I let you guys go, or?
Just thank you very much for having us on the show and, and helping bridge that gap. There is misunderstanding even between transgender people. And thank you so much for them.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you. And I'm, as long as I have breath in my body and as long as God has given me an opportunity to be here and to do this, then I will be doing it. So.
And Tiara, I would like to add to that when you went off and we were on our own, that whether, whatever stage of your journey you're on, if you're watching this and you're trans, that you are trans enough, that you have to give yourself the grace to be where you are now, and you don't have to live up to somebody else's expectation of what that looks like. And so thank you so much for having us, because this has been wonderful for me as well. But I want you to hear that you are trans enough.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you. And Cameron, did you have any final words you wanted to say?
Yes, just be yourself. Be your loving self. You don't have to be anything more than that. That's all I have to say. More love.
Absolutely. And that's really the main focus, guys, the main point. Crimson Dungeon, aka DD, I believe it is, said that this video is amazing. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for doing this video. Like I said, we will be doing this again. Cameron, tell your wife that I'm finally ready. She can come over whenever she wants now.
I will tell her that.
And you guys can go ahead and exit your calls. Thank you again so much for being here. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful evening, guys.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Elijah, Cameron. Thank you, Tiara.
No problem. And viewers, go ahead and stick around because I just got a little bit more information for you guys before we call it quits, viewers. Viewers. Wasn't that an amazing panel, guys? Wasn't that an awesome lineup? An awesome panel. I'm so excited they were here. I'm so excited that we had the chance to see them. I'm so excited that you guys that were here have watched and have stuck around. We are going to, really quick, I just want to run through this really quick. Next week, of course, you guys, we will have a very special show. It's the weekend of Black Girls Rock on BET. And here on the show, at a very special time, next week's show will be at 5 p.m., guys. 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come, you guys are all invited to pregame with us here as we welcome Miss Westland 2018. She's a former Miss Continental 2016. She's a multinational title holder. She's a footlight player at the world-famous Parliament House. She is breathtakingly gorgeous, and she is Miss Giselle Barbie Royale. Will be right here on our show with us. Next week, we're going to have a very intimate interview. We'll get to find out about her work with Bliss Healthy Cares and performing in Miss Continental and what it's like and how she got to be who she is. What an inspiration for transgender women of color and women of color, transgender women all over the place, but particularly for transgender women of color. So I'm really excited to have her on next week. Remember, mark your calendars. Next Sunday, September 9th at a special time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The week after that, she was your first trans woman featured on Black Entertainment Network, also known as BET. She also was the first trans woman to sing on the Apollo. She's a producer, a singer, an activist, and she is my sister. I'm so excited that she'll be here. Miss Crystal LaBeija will be here. That's September 16th, back to the regular time, 7 p.m. She'll be here as well. And I'm so pumped up about this one. I'm so pumped up, and I have to give Kirk Da Vinci credit for this connection. But on the 23rd of this month, September 23rd, Sunday, September 23rd, at our regular time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are going to welcome right here on this space, on this forum, we're going to welcome from RuPaul's Drag Race Season 10. She is going to be here to talk about her Black Girls Magic initiative and life after RuPaul's Drag Race and so much more, so many other things we have. Some of you guys love her. She's hated by some. She's sickening to everybody. She's the vixen. The vixen from season 10. RuPaul's Drag Race will be right here in a candid interview with us. I am so pumped up about that one. Again, that is going to be Sunday, September 23rd at our normal time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you spread the word about the show. Make sure you tell your friends to tune in, guys. Let's get people educated. Let's make sure that people understand that there are forums like this where people can come and not be judged and where people can come and get the education that they may not know without, because sometimes it's hard for us to ask people questions. There has been a narrative of transgender individuals who have made people who want to ask questions feel like they're doing the wrong thing by asking questions. So here we want you to know that this is the space for you to be able to do so. So I'm so grateful that all of you guys have tuned in today. I'm grateful for every single person that we had here. I'm so grateful for the panelists that we had here today. Let me check these messages one more time before we go. I am very, very, very I love you too, Margot's Heels. I'm not exactly sure who that is, but I love you too. Thank you so much for watching. I noticed Vivian, if you're still on. Vivian, I saw you watching earlier. Thank you so much for your support. So really quick, guys, I want to go ahead and pull a couple of names. If you are online currently, there are a few of you guys watching right now. If you are online currently, in order to be eligible to win the free $100 cash giveaway, you must be watching right now. And you must be able to comment. Oh, hey, Cece. Oh, my gosh. Cece, I love you, baby. Mwah. Love you, too. Elijah, thank you so much for being on. It was an honor to have you here. If you guys will give me just a moment. And like I said, as long as you are watching right now, then you can and you will be eligible for the prize. If you are not watching right now, unfortunately, the whole idea of us doing this was so that we could, for people who watch the show, you know. So we want to honor those people that are still here and watching, and so those are the people that will be. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's see. Is new subscriber Joe. Joe is the first name out of the pot. Joe. It just simply says Joe. I think we had a message from Joe earlier, and I believe I know exactly who that is. But Joe, are you online? You are our winner of our $100 free cash click to win giveaway. Are you here? We'll give you a couple seconds to message. If you're here, drop a message in the comments section. If not, we're moving on to the next person. No problem. Thank you so much, Cameron, for being on. It does not look like Joe is on, guys. So the next name out of the bucket is Deborah. Deborah Whitley, Witeley. Deborah, are you watching right now? If you are currently watching, go ahead and shoot a message in our comment section. If you are watching and you are here watching the show right now, you are the winner of our $100 cash giveaway. Ah, Joe! There you are, Joe. He is there.
Awesome.
You just popped up. Good job, Joe. Awesome. Hey, listen, I'm going to be shooting you a message in just a moment so that we can make the arrangements for our sponsor to get you your payout. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're so excited. You guys, we've got a winner. We've got Joe as our winner for our $100 free cash click to win giveaway. Thank you, Joe, so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here. We will shoot you a message and get you get your prize to you, okay? Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you guys for being here. We appreciate everybody for everything that you do. Please don't believe that this is going to be the last please don't believe that this is going to be the last contest that we do. We have so many great things coming for this show. You guys have no idea. I wish there were some things that I could talk to you guys about, but I don't want to ruin some of the element of surprises. But we've got some amazing things coming up. So stick around. Keep tuning in every Sunday. Normally 7 o'clock. Next week, we've got a 5 o'clock show with Giselle Barbie Royale right here. This has been the Trans Sister Radio Show with me, your host, Tiara Latrice. So glad you guys tuned in. So glad to have you. So glad for the panelists that were here. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did. We'll see you guys next week. This week, just remember, guys, God loves you, and be kind to each other, Lord. Bye. Oh, and I love you too. Bye, guys.